think back a lot to what, who I was back in those teenage years. I mean, honestly, the confidence was through the roof. And I think it's because I was good. I was good at what I did, and I was confident in it. I could sit and play, and I didn't even need to look at the keys. It was just going. It just sounded great. I've really found my voice early. I could get up in front of audiences, and pretty much in a whole week of gigs, 6 out of 10, I could have a standing ovation every night. I really knew what I was doing and knew how to get good reactions. I really believed it was going to be successful. And when it wasn't that much of a surprise to me. It really felt like, yeah, I've put my time into this. I did my first gig when I was 11. I'm now 20 and I've had a hit.
Almost like it was expected. This is inevitable.
Kind of. I was happy. I was really enjoying it, but yeah, I kind of did expect it to happen. Even though this story we talk about is like a one in however million, I really thought it was going to happen, and it did happen. I didn't really have any plans beyond the first Top of the Pops and the first Swap Shop and all those things that you do. But that's when I started thinking, right, okay, we want a number one album now. We want to be playing stadiums in Asia, and it just went through to this whole other level. And of course, that's the time when we were starting to have this big success around 92. Like, the world of doing what we do just took over everybody. There wasn't time to be thinking about what's your next goal, or it was literally just flights, interviews, gigs when you were knackered. You're losing your voice because you've been talking all day. They were a really hard few years. They were.
Did you realise it in this period now? Like, it's the great stuff because it's the big hits and the big events and stuff, but all the personal growth disappears. All of the deep learning that you're able to do disappears. You're so in it, you're so obsessed with it, I guess, that it doesn't allow for any of that stuff.
Yeah, it takes over. I think everything. I think like everything's amplified when you're in those years of you're just operating, and there's things I think back on a lot of where we'd be finishing a tour and we'd been out for 6 months or something, and we get home and everyone's booking holidays, and I get a call saying, "Oh, the label, we need the album next week," and I haven't written anything because we've been on the road. So I watch everyone go off to Magaluf and all these places, and I've got to write an album now in a week. And I look back and I think, God, look at that album I wrote that week, big, with like 3 big songs on it. Like,
did you mind this? Were you thinking, give us a break, or were you?
No, I wasn't.
Single-minded in.
I think I was. It was so automatic that it just came out, and thank God it was good. It was all right. It was, people were connecting with it, and even like when I think about how long we talk about our direction and where we want to go next, and that was decided in an evening. It's just really amazing the massive decisions that you make in those circumstances of like mayhem and travel and gigs, and I mean just the things that we put so much thought into now were literally a 5-second decision back then.
And nobody's flawless, right? You were delivering an amazing set of songs and albums and music and doing so much for the band, but everything has a price, right? So what were you like as a person at this point? I remember watching something where you and the guys all got together in a pub and you talked about coming back, and you remember, I can't remember which bandmate of yours, but they said, I'm not sure. Like, I remember what you were like at that time.
Yeah.
I'm interested on the impact that had on you and what you think about when you sort of take those words on board.
Oh, I think I was unbearable. I really do. I really do. I think about it a lot, actually, because, I look at my band members over the years. I think, God, they've put up with a lot with me. I was right all the time, and I was the leader all the time. That original role I'd been given, I didn't give any of it up as the years went on. And yeah, it needed to end. The band needed to end, because we did all end with a handshake at the end, and everyone went their separate ways. And, you know, Rob had got out a little early. It was all getting too much for him. It needed to end, and I needed to go off and do what I did next. It's easy looking back on this now and having, because of course where I'm at now in my life, it's such a great place that I have to look back and go, God, I needed to fail. I really needed to fail, because I just don't think I could. It couldn't carry on in that way. It would have been so. I'd have never met anybody or got married. It was just too unbearable to be around.
And did you ever get any like when you look back on that period? Did anyone try and give you the feedback without you having to endure a failure to say, Gary, you need to just relax here, or you need to concede a bit of power? Did you ever get that feedback?
No, I didn't, because the quote I told you earlier about the manager keeping you confident, it was in place still. And of course, what you acquire in those years is you then acquire a bunch of people around you who just say that you're right, yeah, absolutely, you know what you do. You know, it's not healthy. It's really not healthy at all. And you know, what I really needed to do at that time is just go away and live for a year, do something else for a year. But it didn't feel like that. It always, you know, one of the things Nigel always said to us was, it never lasts forever, this, you know, and I didn't believe that. But it was always at the back of my mind. And I just thought, well, I couldn't have a year off. I'll do 2 albums in that year, and I'll do another tour. And it never felt that like there was ever time for a rest. It just felt like you've got to keep going, otherwise people will forget you.
Cut yourself a bit of slack, though. Like, you hadn't experienced the lesson that was going to teach you that the way you were behaving and acting was wrong. You know, it had just been the good stuff. And if what you do means you get #1 albums and big hits, you keep doing it, right?
I know, and I guess also if we rewind a little bit more, you know, I was the second child, the baby, you know, the one who sits at the organ and everyone claps, and I mean, I just had these years of being told I was great, and then I'm put into this spotlight, and everyone tells you you're great, and this comment just keeps reoccurring until you feel I'm great, I'm just amazing, you know.
So when Robbie leaves your band, you're probably thinking, no problem.
Yeah.
Off you go.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's a funny one, because the whole Rob thing, I mean, it's such a scary thing to always talk about, because I always feel like...
Are you comfy now talking about it?
I'm never comfy talking about anyone. I always think they should have their own say, but he's not here, so I can probably talk about it semi-freely, because, you know, Rob... My friends were Jason and Howard. It was the 3 of us. We were the older ones. We got on. Mark and Rob were always a bit removed for us. They were the cool younger ones, and they were the naughty ones, and they were always off doing something else. So it wasn't like Jay or Howard leaving the band. It was Rob. You know, it'd be fine. It'd be fine. Let it, you know. And I think we all look back at that period and think, God, Rob he wasn't even 16 when he joined the band. He was 2 weeks off being 16. Wow. So I'm thinking at 19 being told I'm brilliant and who I'd become. Well, who'd he become being told that from 16? You know, it's just we all had our different journeys, but it just gone too much for him. You know, the day in, day out, the work, the stress of it all, and you know, me leading everybody, telling them what to do. It just got too much for him. So he was the first to go.
What did you think he would go on to do at that point?
Well, there's one thing I've always remembered about Rob. He's talented.
Yeah.
Very talented. You know, he when we started, you know, it was me and Rob were the singers. You know, we were the two who were always in the studio, and, you know, he's great on a stage. There was never any doubt of that for me. But little did I think he'd ever go on to do. I don't think, if you asked Rob, though, he would say, I can't believe what's happened. I mean, it's for anybody. No one can believe their success. I can't believe mine, at this point. But we've all had it, and taking it to pieces is an interesting thing. But if you ask Rob, about his success, he'd say he couldn't believe it either.
So if we'd have come along to you at this stage when Take That are in their pomp at that stage of your career and asked, how much do you think the success is down to you as an individual, and how much would you say is the rest of the band? What would your answer have been?
In the 90s?
In the 90s.
Now you got to be honest here.
Yeah, I'm going to try and be honest, because there's definitely, we were always aware that like Mark was the most popular.
Really?
Because he's such a brilliant manager, our manager was, because he used to set out the fan mail so you could see who was the most popular.
Great.
That'd get you on your feet.
And where were you on that list?
I was about the middle.
Right.
Yeah.
And was that confusing for you, knowing that you were the main guy in your head?
Well, not really, because everyone called Mark the cute one, and he was a gorgeous, I mean, he still is, but he's just the perfect crush, isn't he, Mark? And so it was no surprise at all. That wasn't. I was probably jealous a bit, definitely, but I always thought it was interesting the way we could all see who was.
And was that done deliberately, you think?
I don't know. Yeah.
And what answer would you come to in terms of the percent that you're responsible for Take That success at this point?
Musically, I'd say most of it for the 90s. But, standing on a stage, I always felt really strong when I was with the band. Our performance was definitely a piece of the success, which a lot of other bands didn't have. The live event was always a big thing for our band, still is. And so I could never feel like I was the biggest part of that.
So Robbie's left.
Yeah.
You remain with the other guys. And then the decision's taken to break the hearts of millions of girls around the world and boys and go your separate ways.
Yeah.
Was there any fear at this point from you?
No
Not
fear.
an ounce?
Not an ounce of fear, no. No, it felt like, we all sat and made the decision. Everyone was ready for just take this burden away. It just felt too much.
In what way? So you describe it as a burden. That's an interesting.
Yeah, it was not fun anymore. Right. It was not fun anymore.
Why not?
It was so crazy. It was just crazy. I remember we were in like Singapore or somewhere on tour, and we were going home the next day, and of course we'd all know what we were going home to. It just lines of people outside your house, and you couldn't do anything. I remember us phoning and saying to Nigel, "Can we go somewhere else?" And he'd be like, "You've been away for 5 months." I was like, "I don't want to go home." It was just too much. It was too hard to go out and do stuff, and it was tricky. It was tricky.
Hey guys, it's Jake here. Listen, before you go, please do me just one favour. Hit subscribe. It makes such a difference to us. The more subscribers we get, then the bigger the channel becomes. The bigger the channel becomes, the bigger the names we can attract and the more impact we can have for you. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe right now.